All right, everybody. Welcome to Satchats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot today. I'm your host, Stuart Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from the always on Bitcoin laser eyes that are coming out of the front of my face.
And I am Chris, your co-host, founder and CEO of Ithaca Hummus, proud multi-coiner and Bitcoin smash buyer.
Today, we are bringing you Michael. Michael is my neighbor, literally right next door to me. For the past 4 some odd years, we focused in this episode on the question, what backs Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin backed by anything real? Is there anything behind it? What makes it valuable? So take a listen. You might even stack your first sats after listening to this episode.
We hope you do.
So without further ado, here is my neighbor, Michael. So you check on these schools, right?
Yeah.
And you're checking on their money?
Essentially, we kind of do a few different things with the audit. So we kind of look through the financial picture of the school district and then check on their controls to make sure when they're getting money from the federal and state government that they're spending it properly. So we're not necessarily looking for anything like fraudulent. That's a byproduct of what we do. But essentially, we look through their financial picture and kind of prepare the financial statements for them so that they can so that we can report basically essentially what they're doing with public taxpayer money.
So before you were doing like mortgage servicing too, right?
Yep.
For a different company.
Yep, I was doing loan processing for a mortgage lender, so mostly helping people refinance their homes for the most part, walking them through the process from application through closing on their refinances. And I was there for probably 2 years, so I saw the rates go from roughly, at the lowest, it was 1.5%. You could get a cash out refinance for 1.5% on some of these loans. And by the time that I unfortunately got laid off, they were up to 7%, and they rose that much in the span of like 8 or 9 months.
Wow. That is insane, dude. So you've had exposure to the fiat system, right? To the world of finances and all that. You know, what has been your relationship, your personal relationship with finances so far? You know, how do you think about money? How are you trying to get out ahead so you have enough to retire, all that stuff? You know, what's your take on that?
Right now, I've kind of been looking at it from a more long-term perspective, with the markets being performing relatively well over the past few years. I've been putting a lot more money in my 401k and my IRAs. And once the markets slow down inevitably, then I'm planning on putting more money into my savings account. But right now, since I know that, the earlier you start investing in a lot of these accounts, the better it's going to be in the long run. So I've been trying to get ahead on the curve on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you've got some retirement accounts. Do you feel like you've contributed enough for what is expected at your age, or are you ahead, or are you behind?
I think I'm ahead, because I think a lot of people my age don't really take into consideration long-term investments like that. A lot of people are just throwing it into the market if they're investing at all. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm ahead of the curve from the standpoint of being 26 and having been putting investments in for a few years now. Mm-hmm. After I got laid off, it was kind of tough to put money into those accounts. Yeah. So, not having a job for 3 months kind of set me back a little bit. So I was kind of playing catch up on that. But as I've gained stable employment again, I've started going back to putting money into those. So I feel good about where I'm at this point. But it's also kind of a battle of, do I want to put the money into something long term or something more short term?
Mm. So what would be a short term option for you?
Just regular trading stocks, investments, throw money at something, hope it sticks, hope it goes up. And then if it goes up and it doesn't seem like there's a future to it, then just sell it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So like on a scale of 1 to Wall Street, bro, like where would you see yourself in terms of level of effort for that kind of short-term trading stuff?
1 to Wall Street, bro, like a 4.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my goodness.
I like how you quantified that.
Yeah, I had to think about it.
Yeah.
A 4.
A 4.
Oh my gosh.
Like
So-
a Redditor.
Yeah.
Like a Wall Street bets. Not a Wall Street guy, but like a guy on Wall Street bets on Reddit.
Right,
Mhm,
right.
mhm,
Okay, okay.
mhm.
So how much do you know about Bitcoin as an investment or even anything at all about Bitcoin? You know, how much do you know about Bitcoin? When did you first hear about it? You know, what's that been like for you?
I probably first heard about Bitcoin in probably like 2018 or so. When it started going up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't following it. I wasn't actively investing in it. I think my initial exposure to it was one of my friend's parents. We went to a Carolina Panthers football game, and they were talking about setting up a I forget what they're called, but like a mining tool.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea what they were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I mean, I'd heard about it, but then I guess when it started going up a lot in like 2020 and everybody started talking about it, I mean, I had some familiarity with it at that point, but when I first heard about it, it wasn't something that I was like, okay, you know, this is going to go to the moon like it did.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I have some familiarity with it. I struggle to understand how exactly it works and what it's backed by. So I would say my knowledge on it is fairly basic, maybe intermediate at best.
Okay. Do you have a sense that if you bought some now, it would go up in value pretty reliably? Or do you feel like it's kind of like a even more volatile version of being a Wall Street bro?
I mean, every time I thought that Bitcoin was going to go down or crash, it's continued to go up. So at this point, I mean, I can't afford to buy a $96,000 Bitcoin.
99 today.
It's 99. It went up again. I mean, what was it? What did it peak at?
108.
I mean, I can't afford to buy an entire Bitcoin, but if it's going to continue, you know, on the trajectory that it's been going the last several years, I mean, it could be a long-term investment to maybe buy a couple $1,000s of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So at the least, you actually know that the minimum buy is not 1 Bitcoin.
Right.
You actually know that you can buy less than 1 Bitcoin if you want.
Yeah. I mean, when I downloaded one of the crypto apps that I got, they gave me like a $5 match on Bitcoin. They're like, if you put $5 into Bitcoin, we'll throw another $5 in there for you.
Mm-hmm. And when was that? Was that this year or last year, or was that a couple years ago?
Probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't done anything crazy because it was just such a small amount,
Mm-hmm.
but I've seen it go up.
So you still have it on that crypto app?
Yeah, I have no plans of selling it.
Hell yeah, dude.
Nah.
What happens if the $5 you put in and the $5 they put in, which is $10 total, turns into like a bunch of money later? That would be sweet.
That'd be the goal.
I mean, what would have happened if you had bought $10 worth of Bitcoin when Bitcoin cost $1 per Bitcoin?
I mean, you'd probably be a millionaire.
You would literally be a millionaire.
Yeah.
You would literally.
Yeah.
Right? Because at 100K times 10.
Yep.
Can you imagine buying $10 worth of something and then within short order, it's $1 million?
Yeah. Or you could be the guy that missed out on it because he sold his Bitcoin for a pizza.
20 Bitcoin.
It was 20 Bitcoin
20 Bitcoin.
for a single pizza,
No,
right?
bro.
Is that right?
No.
It was one?
He bought a $20 pizza
Okay.
for 10,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And everybody feels so bad for that guy
Yeah.
because 10,000 Bitcoin in today's terms is, I mean, I can't even do that math.
You'd be a
It's a
billionaire.
billion.
10,000 times 100,000 is 1 billion.
1 billion.
So he paid $1 billion for 2 Papa John's pizzas, right? But one thing that I have learned upon looking further into that piece, that wasn't his whole stack, y'all.
Yeah, for sure.
He had so much Bitcoin that he was like, I just want to buy something with Bitcoin because it's cool. I'll give 10,000 Bitcoin to whoever can order me 2 pizzas. So think about having so much Bitcoin that 10,000 Bitcoin is not that big of a deal for you, right?
So what did he do? Like, how did he pay for it? Because at the time, I don't think Bitcoin you could turn into like actual cash, right?
Yeah, it was a lot harder to operate with Bitcoin earlier in time because we didn't have these exchanges like Bitcoin Well that can help, transfer your Bitcoin into dollars. So what this guy did, and you used to have situations where you might post online, hey, I want 100 Bitcoin. Who's got it? And they would like meet you in a park and you would, pay them cash and they would give you the Bitcoin, right? So it used to be like for real peer-to-peer, truly peer-to-peer, right?
How would they transfer that though? Like it was a disc? Was it a disc with the bit?
Almost like, it's just information. So like imagine putting information on a USB stick and then say, okay, I've got the files. You want to buy these files? Here's the files, right? You just hand it off like that. Or maybe you make the transaction there where you come with the cash. They say, there's the cash. Okay, from my little smartphone, my very early prototypical wallet, I'll send to your address and we'll watch it happen. Okay, we're good,
Yeah. And these were all like cryptographers and coders and people who are way more advanced than we are in terms of technology.
And after them, maybe the libertarians,
right.
who were among they were among the first to adopt it after the cypherpunks and all that. So what he did, he said, all right, whoever can buy me 2 Papa John's pizzas, I think it was, maybe it was $20 or $25, I'll send you 10,000 Bitcoin. And some guy and he's in Florida. He was in Florida. Some guy in the United Kingdom was like, hey, I'll do it. So send me the 10,000 Bitcoin and then I'll call the Papa John's near you and I'll put in the order for you at your address and I'll pay for it with my credit card or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he sent the 10,000 Bitcoin to a guy in the United Kingdom who then ordered the pizza for him. And that guy in the United Kingdom now has $1 billion. Woo! $1 billion US? Holy smokes, right? So, you have $10 of Bitcoin now. Do you know how many Satoshis that is?
I have no idea.
Yeah. And you haven't bought any more since then?
Not yet.
Yeah. What's holding you back?
I guess just, only throwing $10 in there. I mean, it seems like a reasonable long-term investment. I guess what's been holding me back is like it kind of looks like every time it goes up. I guess since I don't fully understand what backs Bitcoin, the dollar's backed by gold, but I don't fully know what backs Bitcoin, so I don't understand, if there's something preventing it from just crashing all of a sudden. Which is probably one of the things that's been holding me up from buying it.
Okay.
I do know just from doing some reading that the new administration is looking into new forms of currency apart from just the US dollar, and Bitcoin was something that was mentioned. So if they have a way of truly backing it and guaranteeing that it's not going to just collapse and there's no way for people to get their money back, then I could certainly see myself putting more money into it.
Quick gut check here. Is the US dollar backed by gold?
That's what they say.
That's what they said when, right? Have they said that in your lifetime?
I think so. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's backed by gold.
The United States formally separated from gold in 1971.
I did not know that.
Nixon said, we are temporarily suspending the convertibility of U.S. banknotes for gold temporarily.
It's also worth mentioning that even before that, there was a point in time where we were on the gold standard and you could take a dollar bill and you could go and exchange that for a dollar of gold.
Right.
Theoretically. But even before we suspended temporarily the gold standard, the Federal Reserve decided, well, we really only need 50 cents worth of gold for every dollar out there. And then we really only need 20 cents worth of gold for every dollar out there. And eventually it got to the point where it's like, the game's over here. We don't have enough gold to reimburse everyone for their dollars and exchange it for gold.
Right. So what's backing the U.S. dollar now?
Nothing at all. The reason the U.S. dollar is still to this day considered the world's currency is because it is the most widely accepted unit of exchange. That's it.
I would love that question to be answered, right? So what is backing the US dollar? You know what I mean? And Chris is right. Nothing, right? It is absolutely floating in outer space, dude. It's not built on anything, right? It used to be gold equaled dollars, but then they started papering over their gold, and then they papered over it some more. Then there was so much paper, they're like, we actually can't even sustain this anymore. So guys, we're going to temporarily, permanently suspend the convertibility, right? And so for 50 years, the US dollar has been backed by the US dollar. It's basically a promise from America to its citizens and the world that we're going to be good for it later. Promise y'all, okay? Right? When you buy the US bond that says, hey, I'm going to buy this item from the United States, and the United States is going to pay me back later, right, to the tune of 3, 4, 7%. You're betting that America will continue to be productive and that will make technological breakthroughs, will unlock new areas of productivity and revenue, and that by the time we owe you the money that you gave us, we'll have enough money to pay you back with interest.
Right.
That is it. That is it, right? So the US dollar is backed by your hard work over the coming decades and the hard work of your kids over the coming decades, right? First kid he has, going to be a handsome young boy. Going to name him Stuart, actually, he told me.
Oh,
yeah. He was
nice.
like, I want my first son to be Stuart Arthur Kinney, you know, because of just the relationship we have as neighbors. You know, I was like,
wow.
That's really wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So, you know, your hard work, Stuart Kinney's hard work, that's what's backing the US dollar. Okay. So it's important to just note that real quick. The US dollar is not backed by gold. And actually, if you hit up what happened in WTF happened in 1971, I think just Google or privacy enthusiasts, DuckDuckGo, get at me. It's like WTF happened in 1971. It's a website that's just dedicated to all these charts that track stuff from earlier in time to 1971, where it's like, hey, here's average wages, and they go like this, and then 1971 comes, it's like, you know, here's the price of Campbell soup, and it's like, okay, it's going up, it's going in, and like it literally, like everything in the world is like tracking like fairly decently in concert with other items, and then it gets in 1971, and the chart just goes bananas, right? It absolutely goes hard. And you're like, wow, literally everything got trashed in 1971. So your nation state paper is backed by the strength of the nation state, which is something, right? Yeah. But that only works if the nation state does not make more paper than it's worth, right? So if the nation state says, okay, we didn't collect enough money from our citizens. Case in point, 2024. Can you tell me how much tax revenue the United States collected?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
20 trillion.
20 trillion. They collected 4 trillion in taxes. Can you tell me what the United States spent in 2024?
10 trillion.
10 trillion. They spent 6, right? But what did you, well, you said maybe, dude, if the United States collected 20 trillion in taxes and spent 10 trillion,
We'd be
I would be
socialist.
loving my life because they would be on a budget.
Yeah.
They would have not spent more than they had. But in fact, they collected 4 trill and they spent 6 trill. So where does the 2 trill come from? They just printed it, right? So instead of the nation state backing its paper off of the strength of itself, it's basically taking out a loan against its own self. It's like, look, guys, I know we only collected 4 trillion, but we need 6 trillion. So we'll print that money now. And Michael is going to do that work over the coming decades and we'll be able to pay everybody back, right? So they take a loan against the future. You know what I mean? And so the nation state paper isn't even really backed by the nation state because the nation state is making more money than the work it produced, right? And it's constantly borrowing from itself into the future. Okay. So you asked, what is backing Bitcoin, right? Because in your head, the US dollar is clearly backed by something.
Yeah.
So what backs Bitcoin? Well, the US dollar is backed by nothing. What is Bitcoin backed by?
I mean, my answer to that question is energy. I like to think of Bitcoin as digitized energy. It takes energy to power computers. Energy costs money in US dollars or however you want to finance the powering of those computers. Those computers mine Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin comes out the other end.
How does that process work?
The mining of the Bitcoin?
Yeah.
So basically, computers are all at the same time. I don't know how many miners exist.
Yeah, I wonder if it would be on the dashboard. I'm not sure how you would check that.
Yeah, so there's this massive global decentralized network of computers that we refer to as miners, who are all at the same time trying to figure out the answer to a math problem. And the math problem is so complex that they're not actually going through any mathematical computations to solve it. They're just guessing numbers as quickly as they can. And the first computer to guess that number correctly unlocks that block on the blockchain, and their reward is 3.15 Bitcoins. And then there's a little more than 21,000 nodes, which are basically computers, also global, also decentralized, that have copies of the ledger, of the blockchain, that records the proof of work. When a miner guesses correctly, unlocks the blockchain, that's recorded, and records the transfer of Bitcoin from peer to peer or from one party to the other.
So are we talking about like actual people that are mining, trying to guess these codes?
Yeah, people, businesses, companies, nation states.
Yeah. So I do know how you check. It's called hash rate.
Hash rate.
And it's on the Clark Moody dashboard. And it basically shows you how many computers are trying to solve the next block all at the same time, right? And it used to be that you could get your laptop, get some mining software on it, right? And then point it at the network and start solving blocks because it wasn't that tough. The puzzle wasn't that hard. And you would get 50 Bitcoin for solving the block. So once every 10 minutes, somebody made 50 Bitcoin for solving the block reward in like 2009, 2010.
So is trying to solve the block only for trying to generate Bitcoin, or is it for other purposes? Like what do you mean when you say trying to solve like the block?
So you have transactions, right, on the Bitcoin network.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you sats. You're going to send me sats. I'm going to send him sats. He's going to send you sats. There is no central authority that is receiving each of those transactions and saying, yep, got it. Yep, got it. Yep, got it. Right. It's not like Bank of America, who is going to see all the transactions that its customers carry out, right? And be able to say, okay, that's right. You had that money. Now you don't. You didn't have that money. Now you do, right? They have a centralized private spreadsheet that they use to track all of the transactions. That Bitcoin doesn't have that. Bitcoin has no CEO. There is no company that owns Bitcoin. It doesn't have any employees. It's a piece of software. It's a program, right? So when I send you sats, right, we need a way to record that and say, okay, Stuart had those sats. Now Michael has those sats. Because if we don't, I could say, well, I sent Michael sats and now I'm going to send Chris sats. I control copy paste in my Bitcoin, bro. Right? I'm hacking into the system, dude. Okay, I'm a rogue AI witch like my guy Ari. So what happens is you send those transactions out into a big pool of transactions. You're like, guys, I want to send Michael 10,000 sats. And I'm willing to pay a miner 3 sats for every virtual byte of information that is inside that transaction. So what a miner will do is say, okay, well, if I spend my computing resources to take the transactions that are giving me the most attractive looking fees, I'm going to scoop them up. We're going to put them into a block. Okay. All these transactions are pending. I'm going to do the work of making sure that all those transactions are valid, right? From the beginning of all time to now, I'm going to trace the Bitcoin so that I know that the one that is here and being sent here actually exists and belongs to that person. Okay. Now, to verify all those transactions, you have to do some insane math, right? And it's a cryptographic puzzle that gets harder the more people who try to solve it, okay? And I guarantee I am murder ball towning this explanation. And when we come back to this on an episode where it's just the two of us and we're cleaning things up, I am fully going to have to get out a wet wipe and like clean up everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in the chat section on YubTub, they're going to be absolutely nuking my face off into infinity, dude. Wrecked. They're going to strap me behind their digital horses and just drag me until the scan has. But because I am not doing this correctly, but this is what I know so far, right? And you know, in order to take that batch of transactions and say this occurred and we want to add it to the blockchain, you have to find the solution to a puzzle. And it's something to where like you have to find the right number that when you plug in that number, it creates a nonce, N-O-N-C-E, the first 8 digits of which are just like zeros, 0.00 and then whatever. And it is so hard, even when it was the easiest it could be, that all computers would do is just guess numbers as quickly as they can. So the more computing power you have, the more guesses you can make, the likelier you will solve the block. So when you have a big fat operation, you are likely to solve a reliable number of blocks. Okay. And when you solve that block and you're the one who gets to add it to the blockchain, in exchange for your hard work, you get freshly minted Bitcoin, right? So in exchange for the energy that you put into your computer, that electricity, in exchange for the energy you put into that effort, right, where you are maintaining your computer, right? You are making sure it's pointing in the right place. You're keeping it cool. You're doing a bunch of work, right? In exchange for that work, you get Bitcoin, right? And right now you get 3.125 Bitcoin, okay? Used to be 50. Then after about 4 years, 25, then 12 and a half, then 6.25, now 3.125. And in 2028, it's going to drop to 1.5625 or something like that. It goes in half. Right?
Is that because there's less blocks available now?
No, you can have as many blocks as you want, right? Okay, because all a block is an extra entry
Journal
on the
entry.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Instead of a centralized private spreadsheet at Bank of America, you have a decentralized public spreadsheet. You can have 100 rows, 1,000 rows, million rows.
The reason for that is because they want to decrease the rate at which new Bitcoin can be minted.
Gotcha.
That's why.
Right? Because when you have a supply of something and all of a sudden there's a whole bunch more of it, is it that valuable anymore?
No.
No.
What was the term you used yesterday? Slow release or something like that?
Predictable supply shock.
Right.
Yeah, right. So what the program is designed to do is take the amount of new Bitcoin and make it less and less and less and less and less and less and less until there is no more Bitcoin. There is no more new Bitcoin, right? When you have a nation state's paper and you think it's worth $1 and they print the entire amount of money they had all over again, which is what they did in the pandemic, then your dollar's worth 50 cents. But if you have a money that gets less and less and less available, right, then it becomes more and more and more valuable.
Yeah.
Which means you can buy more and more and more stuff with it.
Right.
Compare that to the nation state paper, which you can buy less and less and less stuff, right? Think about Stanley's food. How much was a bag of food when Stanley was a pup?
Probably like $35, $40 or so.
How much is a bag of food for the Stan Man today?
I mean, if I get him the good stuff, like 80, 85.
Bruh, that's twice as much.
Yeah.
Okay, Acana. Is that what you're buying?
I buy him, I think it's Blue Diamond.
Blue
Blue
Diamond.
Buffalo.
Blue Buffalo. Okay.
Yeah.
So has that dog food gotten twice as good in the 4 years of Stanley's life?
There's no way.
No. Is it twice as healthy?
No.
Twice as flavorful?
Maybe for the price.
Are you getting twice as much?
No.
No. So why is it more expensive? Why do you think your dog food is more expensive?
Because the value of the dollar has gone down.
There it is. Well, is that what you believe? Or is that what you think I want to hear?
I think that's what you wanted to hear.
Yeah. Why do you think your dog food is more expensive?
Inflation, corporate greed.
Corporate
Ooh,
greed.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Are those the only two reasons?
I'm sure there's more.
Like what?
More expensive to produce, maybe, potentially. Production cost.
Okay. So let's look at inflation first. Okay. Hey, my dog food's getting more expensive because of inflation. What is inflation?
I mean, the easiest way to look at it is just stuff getting more expensive every year. GDP going up every year, and then companies trying to, I guess, keep up with that.
So do you feel like it makes sense for things to get just a little bit more expensive each year?
I mean, a little bit more expensive, sure. I think inflation is natural.
Inflation is natural. Whoa! Woo!
Yeah. I mean,
whoa!
Well, I mean, look, most people feel that way.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Until January 2024, when I saw the Bitcoin ETFs approved and started learning about money and inflation and Bitcoin, right? Do you think it has gotten harder for these dudes to make dog food? Maybe the material costs more, but the process.
No, it's probably easier.
It's probably easier. So if it's easier to make the dog food, maybe they have more machines. Maybe it's more automated.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they need less employees as a result, right? Yeah. So if it's easier, why it costs so much? Why is it getting more expensive?
I couldn't explain it.
It's insane.
You're not alone. I mean, look, that's why we're doing this show, because you have the same questions and blank spots that so everybody else does, right?
Right.
The reality is, in a free market economy, which America was set up as a free market economy, right? Capitalism. Things should get more efficient. We should be more productive. Things should be more profitable. Things should cost less over time. And I would say that's probably true, right? I mean, that's absolutely true. That's happening. But the problem is, when we decide we want to send out stimulus checks to stimulate the economy, and we pay for that by printing more money, all those dollars that we print that outstrips the actual GDP, or the what we produce as a nation, essentially siphons off all those efficiency gains, siphons off the advancement of our nation, and we use that to pay for totally inefficient government-backed programs, ideas, goals that have nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
So let's say, was Stanley born in 2020?
2019, I think.
2019?
Yeah.
So he's not almost going to be 6.
Yeah.
Stanny.
5.5.
Stan man. So he was born 2019. Dog food was about $40 a pop. Okay. And from the beginning of America to 2019, America had printed $10 trillion for itself. Okay. And there's 10 trillion out there in the supply. Not all of it is in America, because some of it's overseas. Some people convert their money into US dollars. It's all good, whatever. But there's 10 trillion out there in the world, right? 2020 hits. The Stan Man is 1 year old, right? They start printing dollar bills because we're all in our house. We are grinding to some kind of economic halt in certain areas, right? Like, hey, I didn't go to any restaurants. I didn't go to any movies. I mean, in very short order, they printed 10 trillion more dollars. Huh? They literally doubled the money supply to stimulate the economy, right? Hey, the economy is having a hard time. Let's give people money to spend. Well, where's that money coming from? It's not coming from anywhere. So they doubled the money supply. And now your dog food costs twice as much, right? It is a direct correlation. The amount of money they print equals the amount of inflation. The amount of, and let's be clear here, because I am working through an amazing book, Michael. It's called 40 Centuries of Wage and Price Controls, semicolon, How Not to Fight Inflation. And what they point out is that the amount of paper the nation state prints above its productivity gains is the amount the price goes up. So if you have productivity gains of 4%, but you print 7% more money, everyone's pricing will go up 3%. Okay. They went up 50%. I'm sorry, they went up 100%. So your dog food went up 100%. Okay. So that is what inflation is, right? You're thinking dog food got more expensive because of inflation and corporate greed. Your dog food went up because inflation is printing money, right?
And it's also worth pointing out on the corporate greed side of things. Like, that's a really nice narrative, right, for the media to spew out there. And in some cases, it may very well be true. But in most cases, this weaker dollar, actually leads to less profits for corporations, for businesses, for small businesses, certainly, because many of these companies are hesitant to raise the price of their products and services because they're afraid that the demand isn't there at those higher price points. So they're forced to compress margins, which ultimately means less profitability, not more.
So Bitcoin is backed by hard work. Nation state paper is backed by the nation state and the future productivity of the nation state. Okay? At least that's what it thinks. But when it prints too daggum much, it gets really nasty, right? Bitcoin is backed by hard work. You got to get out there. You got to get your computer. You got to make it the best it can be. You got to go hard 24 hours a day trying to solve these blocks. And each day you have 24 times 6 chances to solve the block, which is 144. So you got 144 chances each day to solve a block and make 3.125 Bitcoin. You might not ever solve a block, right? But you have to work hard at it, okay? Think about gold, right? What does it take to get gold?
Using your money, just buying it. Were you talking about the process of making gold or finding gold?
it? Yeah,
finding it. I mean, you dig for it, you can search for it. I mean, it's a pretty long process.
Super hard.
Yeah,
Super hard.
especially when there's not that much left.
Yeah.
right. So you have to wait for the universe to produce it
Right.
in the heart of a dying star. Then you need that to explode in a supernova and go careening across the cosmos. Then it needs to be swooped up with a bunch of other dust, into some type of planetary shape and cool down over time. And then you got to find out where it is in all of that, dig it up, right? And now you've got some gold. That's really hard. Yeah. Now, let's imagine pine needles were money. You and me are rich.
Yeah.
We are rich, dude. We are pine needle schmillionaires where we live. You know, that huge lightning pine right there in our front yard, dude, it dropped 1 million pine needles.
yeah.
And all you would have, if somebody were out there in the world, they're like, oh my God, I love pine needles so much. I just love pine needles. And I have food and I grow food and I will give you these cucumbers in exchange for your pine needles. Dude, I could clear that guy out of his cucumbers with my pine needles because I have so many, they're worthless to me. They're not hard to get, right? So when you have money, you want money that's hard to make. It needs to be, and it's called hard money.
Yep.
And money that's easy to make is called easy money. What kind of money do you think nation state paper is?
Easy money.
It's easy money. You just go, okay, you hit the 3 buttons, you roll down to print, you say, okay, I want it in color, okay, and you doop, and it just comes right out.
Sheets of it.
Sheets of it, man. Sheets of it.
It's more efficient to print it in sheets and cut it.
Yeah.
There's so much of it.
Have you ever been to a mint?
No, have you?
Yeah, a couple. The one in New York and the one in Richmond actually prints actual cash notes. But yeah, it's exactly like you said. It's almost like it's like you ever seen Krispy Kreme donuts get made?
Yeah.
It just goes through, and it has they dump the glaze on it.
Yeah.
It's like that. But I mean, it's just giant sheets of paper that get cut exactly like you were saying. I mean, it's cool. It's cool to watch.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty cool to watch.
Right. Wow. The mints are printing paper like it's Krispy Kreme donuts in there,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
They're just rolling off the
Yeah.
conveyor belt hot with that glaze, baby.
Yeah.
Right? And we're supposed to believe that is money. And we're supposed to work for that money. Okay? They can print it for free, but we have to work for it. And it's backed by not
Nothing.
anything at all. But Bitcoin is a decentralized, secure program that has no single controller, but will in fact always do what it's supposed to do, right? They call it tick-tock next block. Every 10 minutes, here's a block of transactions. Here's a block of transactions. It just works, right? And no matter what happens in the world, 9/11, war on terror, financial crisis, Lehman Brothers, pandemic, supply chain issues, AI. You can't get in there and make changes to it, right? When something happens in the nation state, they go, ooh, this is bad. We can't let this happen. Let's paper over it. More paper, put more paper on it, okay? Bitcoin, sorry, bro, right? It just does what it's going to do. So Bitcoin is backed by the hard work that is required to produce it. It's also backed by the 20,000 plus nodes that are checking everything all the time and making sure there's no funny business.
It's the hardest money ever created on that. You think about easy money, hard money. Bitcoin's the hardest money ever created. It's the best store of value. It's the best medium of exchange. It's the best unit of account. Those are the three things that make money good money. Hard money versus bad money, easy money. It's the best in all three classes.
So are people using Bitcoin now as a form of currency or more of as an investment? Because it seems like when it first started, it was basically an online currency to a certain extent. Are most people using it as an investment, and does it hold the same value around the world?
The answer is both things are happening. So you have a certain person who is buying things with Bitcoin.
Yep.
There are companies today that accept Bitcoin, like Safedine Amoose, who wrote the Bitcoin Standard, my favorite book about Bitcoin. You can buy the Bitcoin Standard off his website with Bitcoin. And he actually gives you a discount off the fiat price if you buy in Bitcoin, because he wants Bitcoin. Because the fiat that you use to buy the book from him won't be worth what it is today. But the Bitcoin, even at lower than he's charging in fiat, will be worth more later, right? So if you want, you can spend your Bitcoin. You can spend it online. You can go to Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador. You can go to some of these places, like in New York City, there's a bar called something. I can't remember.
I'll look it up.
A pub key. It's called Pub Key.
Pub Key.
You can get your beer there with Bitcoin, right? It's all good. There's another type of person who's like, hey, dude, but why? Why would I buy something with Bitcoin today if I can hang on to it and get a whole bunch more of it later?
Right.
So ultimately, you have one person who's buying things with Bitcoin, and then you have one person who's buying Bitcoin and hanging on to it so that later on he can buy even more with Bitcoin. So in fact, no matter whether you are a hodler, right, who's buying Bitcoin and never selling his Bitcoin, or whether you are somebody who really believes in Bitcoin as a currency, all y'all are effectively planning on buying things one day with Bitcoin, right? So it is the greatest medium of exchange of all time. It is the greatest store of value of all time. It is the hardest money ever, right? Because not only is it super hard to make, how many Bitcoin are there, or will there ever be? Do you know?
I don't.
Okay. 21 million. 21 million is the maximum Bitcoin that there will ever be.
And is it at that right now?
No.
What's it at?
About 20 million Bitcoin are out there right now. I think 94% of the supply has been issued. But it's going to take another 110 plus years for the remaining 5 to 6% to hit the marketplace because of that predictable supply shock.
Yeah.
Where less and less and less, right? So over time, the inflation rate of Bitcoin goes to 0, right? Right now, the inflation rate of Bitcoin is about 1%. It will go down and down and down and down to 0, right? Now, you might say, hey, gold, dude, but gold, right? Heart of a dying star, supernova, right? It's hard. Like, how can Bitcoin be harder than gold? Well, what happens if we go to Mars and there's a gold rush all over again? What if there's gold on Mars, right? What if a fatty asteroid full of gold comes from the other side of the universe and just absolutely uppercuts the planet, right? and a bunch of people die and it's horrible. But then you're like, well, dude, there's a ton of gold in there. Yo, right? And all of a sudden you go from thinking there's this much gold on Earth to actually there's a whole bunch more, right? Whoa, there's gold everywhere in the universe.
It's like Minecraft.
It's like Minecraft, bro. You think gold is scarce? Gold is the pine needle of the universe, bro. It's everywhere. We haven't been able to get to it yet, but it is there. Bitcoin, I don't care how many planets you explore. I don't care how far you go. In space or time, there's only 21 million. So over time, your share of that Bitcoin pie buys you more and more and more and more. Period. Volatility, whatever, goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down again, doesn't matter, right? And there's some hilarious memes out there that say Bitcoin plunges to $1,000. Bitcoin crashes to $15,000. Bitcoin free falls to $33,000. Bitcoin falls off a cliff and hits a new low of $67,000. You're like, bro, stop. Okay? It's only going up.
And at the same time, every time someone buys Bitcoin, they're like, I waited too long.
Yeah.
I just bought the top, bought the top, bought the top, bought the top. But the top keeps getting higher.
Mm-hmm.
And the crashes, the bottoms of the crashes keep getting higher as well.
So do you think that's why there's all these crypto coins out right now, is they're trying to come up with the next Bitcoin?
That is a very nuanced question, right? And I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer or if I know the answer to it. I do think a slice of the cryptocurrency out there in the world is attempting to improve upon Bitcoin.
Like Ethereum and stuff like that.
I think that a slice of the cryptocurrency out there is trying to solve a specific problem that might be more like an app than money. And I think there's a slice of cryptocurrencies out there that are going to hawk to a pump and dump your face into infinity. And they're literally just designed for you to be like, hee, meme coin, here's my money. And then they just rug pull you so hard, bro. Right? So for the guys that are going to be, for the cryptocurrency that's created as a pump and dump scheme, we know that's worthless.
Yeah.
For the cryptocurrency that is created as like almost like a smart application, fine. If you want to invest in that, that is an investment. That's like a stock of a company or a bond or a treasury or whatever, right? You're basically saying this is a cyber thing that I think is going to accomplish something important. So I'm going to get on board, like Google or Apple or whatever. So you're not converting your money to another money. You're taking the money you have and you're investing in an idea that you think is going to go somewhere. And you're right back to the land of trying to make money with your money because your money's losing money all the time. That slice of cryptocurrency that is created to attempt to be Bitcoin 2.0, maybe someone will be able to do it, right? Maybe. I don't know. In the Bitcoin standard, Safedine points out that the unique properties of Bitcoin make it so that anyone who's able to improve on Bitcoin will kind of just be making Bitcoin again.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it won't be any different from Bitcoin. And its network effect, its adoption levels, the security of it will all be in an infancy compared to Bitcoin. So people will choose Bitcoin instead, and or somebody will come in and absolutely destroy that cryptocurrency because it will be very publicly attempting to get started versus Bitcoin, which was able to kind of incubate in the shadows for a long time in a parallel space. And nobody took it seriously until it's too late. You can't stop it. So all those cryptocurrencies, that's kind of a terrible name, quite frankly.
The currency part.
Because those aren't currencies.
Yeah.
Those are cyber items.
Yep.
Okay. Bitcoin is money. And that's what makes it different from all of these crypto items. These are cyber things. And some of them might have an application. Some of them might try and fail to be Bitcoin. Some of them are fully going to take your money from you.
Yeah.
So we're living in this world, right, where first you had a separation of church from state, right? Way back in the day. Like, okay, Catholicism, like, let's chill. Let's just be chill, okay? I'm going to go ahead, like England. I'm going to go ahead and rule my own country, relax, okay? Not going to do what you say anymore. I got my own little church. We'll make our own little church. It'll be fine, right? Later on, you have the separation of information from state, where we don't just have to watch the nightly news or read the daily newspaper. It's all online, right? And when somebody's wrong, we know it. We know it right away. The dude gets fact-checked into infinity, right? So now the state can't say, this is what's happening. We'll say, no, you're lying, dude. You know, they're like, hey, supply chains are just oof. And, you know, yeah, corporate greed, you know. If I get elected, we're going to make sure the groceries can only charge so much for their food, guys. Right? So that's what's happening. Like, don't look at us. Don't look at what we're doing. They're just like, they're like, don't, that humming in the background, don't pay attention to that. It's these dudes.
Yeah.
But we get to say, hey, hang on. We have other information, right?
Yeah.
So what's happening next? What's the next separation of blank from the state?
Moment of truth.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
So first you have the separation of church and state. Then you have the separation of information and state. What's going to separate next from the state? What's going to be no longer controlled by the state next?
Artificial intelligence.
Oh, whoa. That is interesting. I mean, do you think the state controls AI now?
No.
Right. So it's already separated.
AI's it's already, well, I guess it is already separated.
Right.
But,
It never was part.
right.
You know what I think's up next?
What?
Money. Separation of money and state. Right. I'm still a citizen of America, but my money is Bitcoin. And if you need to run your government with a certain amount of money, then you need to tax me in order to do it. You can't just print money and erode my savings account out from underneath me. You got to come tax my Bitcoin. And if you're taxing me too much, and I don't feel like I'm getting a return on investment, I'll find a nation state with better terms. So we go from a government and citizens to a government that needs to compete for its citizenry on the open market, right? If you're like, well, to live in America, you need to pay 60% capital gains on Bitcoin. And El Salvador's like, hey, man, come on down here. It's money. Who gets taxed on money? Nobody. That's insane. Okay. Guess I'm going to go to El Salvador, right? President Nayib Bukele, okay, will become my president, right? And one day you might just have not nation states anymore, right?
I mean, it kind of seems like we're trending that way anyways.
It's possible.
Now, that might be the year 2200, and we'll be dead.
Yeah.
So that might be a long ways away. All I know is that for now, I'm making money, and I'm trying to save money, and it's buying me less every time I go to get the money I saved to buy the dang thing with.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So we covered a lot of ground, right? I mean, we talked about your background in dude, you know what? We're going to say it like it is. Your background on the front lines of fiat, right? You were processing fiat mortgages and you saw the interest rate go up and up and up until people couldn't even get any mortgages anymore.
Yep.
And then what happened to your job? Gone.
Yeah, it went away. That was crazy. They cut 40% of the jobs in the mortgage industry that year.
Right? That's not good.
Nope.
That's not long term. That wasn't built on something real. That was built on an industry that's operating a fugazi, right? And you also help schools make sure that they're doing the right thing. Okay. We also talked about staying the man. And we talked about putting aside, savings for the future. Is there enough? Should I trade stocks instead? How do I get out ahead, right? And into things like inflation and money printing and Bitcoin, all that stuff, right? That was a lot to cover. And there's more to know than can be covered in one conversation, right? So what we want to hear from you is, how are you feeling now that we've had this conversation?
I mean, with regard to Bitcoin, now that I have a little bit better understanding of it and knowing that the dollar isn't actually backed by anything, but with Bitcoin, there's only a certain number of coins. There's only 21 million, I think you said. And that's actually backed by something because there's no more of it once it's gone. Instead of with the US dollar, they can just keep printing paper over and over and over again. So seeing it from that standpoint and that it's actually backed by something, it definitely would be something I'd be more confident investing in.
Amazing. And when you come back on in 9 months, hopefully to give us an update on your Bitcoin, baby, you want to be talking about Bitcoin as an investment. You'll be talking about it as money, right? So let's make him his offer right now and see if he truly is interested in Bitcoin.
Yeah. So at the end of every show, we offer our guests compensation for their time.
Value for value.
Value for value. So we give every guest a choice between $50 USD, 220s and a 10. Can't find $50 bills anymore. So
they don't have it anymore, dude. $50 bills are so scarce. They're going to be the new Bitcoin.
True. I'd pay $60 for a $50 right now.
I'd pay $60 for a $50 bill right now, dude. That Ulysses S. Grant, mythic rare president, man. Can't find him anywhere.
So alternatively, I'm going to use the Clark Moody dashboard here to find out what the Satoshis per dollar. Right now, you can get 1,007 Satoshis for $1. So 1,007 times 50, 1007 times 50. That's how many sats we would offer you instead of the 50. Okay, that's 50,350 Satoshis or 50 USD.
Now, before you make your choice, okay, you also need to make another very important choice, right? We've been talking about money today, right? And Bitcoin is a money that might be a little out of your comfort zone, or maybe it was at the beginning of the conversation. We also want you to try some tastes that might be out of your comfort zone. So which flavor of Ithaca hummus did you pick today?
The jalapeno lime.
Oh, jalapeno lime is a banger.
Yeah.
Dude, it's popular.
Yes.
So
Excellent choice, by the way. So we've got some woven wheat crackers in a non-discrete white bowl.
Uh-huh.
And magically the jalapeno lime right here before your very eyes. I'll set it there.
Okay. Let's hold that up for everyone. Nice jalapeno there. Nice lime. I like it.
Satchats sponsored by Ithaca Hummus.
It's coming here and then it's like jumping over here.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's all get some and then we'll all try it at the same time. Okay.
Right.
There you go. Nice. Okay.
All right.
We'll get some of this generic woven wheat. You know, if anybody wants to contact about, us about that, it's fine.
Yeah. Support the show. Get your brand out there.
There you go.
All right. Just like Ithaca Hummus, right?
Here we go. Yep.
Smells good.
Yeah. Ready?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, lucky for me, this is already very much inside of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
But
if you hadn't pushed yourself there, you would have never known about it.
My life would be so much smaller, you know?
Wow.
I get $50 worth of that.
Oh, new choice, dude.
Wow.
$50, $50 worth of sats or $50 worth of Ithaca hummus, bro.
That'd be like 10.
Wow. That is that the third option now? Is you just 10, a stack of 10?
We got to talk to Ithaca Hummus about that. But
Wow.
I mean, I could see. Yeah, I don't see why not.
Do you want another one?
I'll take another one.
Yeah, man. Get in there, dude.
I didn't eat hummus growing up. I only started eating it within the past like couple of years.
Mm-hmm. And had you ever tried Ithaca up to this point?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You would know. Because once you try, it just ruins all their hummus for you. You can't go back to the bland, pasty stuff, in the round container. That's how you know it's good. It's in the square. Yeah. It's all white. It just looks.
Mm-hmm. It's square. It's square like a block on the blockchain almost when you think about it. So, how'd that taste?
That was phenomenal. I mean, like I said, I only recently started eating hummus, but I don't feel like a lot of times it has a lot of flavor, but that is packed.
Packed with flavor.
Dude. Wow. Packed with flavor. Okay. So Ithaca Hummus is backed by flavor, and Bitcoin is backed by hard work, and fiat currency is backed by an absolutely yawning void.
Nothing.
So let's get back to your choice over here. $50 or $50 worth of sats.
I'm not even sure. Jeremy, where should I be pointing this? At my cab? Here?
So $50 that will likely buy you $20 worth of stuff, or over 50,000 sats, which will likely buy you much more than 50 later.
I do have to run by the pet store after this, so that would be good to get half a bag of dog food. But I'll go with the sats.
Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. And I'm going to stand up here so we get a good one. Couch, there we go.
One more.
All right, man. 6-0. We love it. We're literally perfect record.
Yeah.
Michael, thank you for coming. Like this video on YouTube, right? Subscribe to the channel. All you got to do to join the Sat Pack is subscribe to the channel. It's easy, right? If you've gotten this far in the episode, just freaking click it. It's not that hard.
Just hit the button.
Dude, it's not even that much work.
No.
Right? You don't even need proof of work to be part of the Sat Pack.
Doesn't cost you a thing.
So just click it or tap it, right? Let's get to 1,000 subscribers. Then we'll unlock a live show Friday mornings. Everybody can jump in the chat. We'll chat about sats in real time. It'll be amazing.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Sat Chats is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Our guests' views are their own.